Jalen Phillips is going to join us in a little bit here. Greg Cody has predicted that he's going to get 20 sacks and he's going to lead the league in sacks. So Greg Cody, Homer Cody, is very excited about this next interview.
You want to say Homer Cody, but I was chatting at length with Mina Kimes this offseason, and she said she wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Phillips wins Defensive Player of the Year. If you want to take a flyer on that, she's very high on Jalen Phillips.
Yep.
Damn right.
He's a menace.
Him and Javon Holland, man, the dynamic duo, those two.
Yeah, they couldn't stop Herbert at
all.
all.
Not so crazy when Mina says it.
Until that screen went blue.
Everybody howls laughter.
I just saw the game on Sunday, and I didn't see anything from the Dolphins defensively that suggested to me Fangs or Phillips are going to be dominant against the great offense.
You saw Phillips make some great plays, though.
Agreed. Oh, right. Whoa. I am not. Yes, Stugotz. I also saw a defense that pretty much got cement mixered most game except till the end.
How about on that last series? Right. How about on the Jets last series? How'd they do then?
The Jets or the Chargers?
You
were on it. Thank you, though, for at least
the Chargers last series,
not
right.
talking.
Banner,
exactly
10 seconds.
His wife's poisoning him, guys. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
you,
true.
Billy.
Yeah.
Right.
OD.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Billy's got it. Nailed.
Got a lot on his mind, yeah.
Damn right.
He's got a lot of medication in his system, is what's happening. So those are the best Greg Cody days. Stugotz just said something to Greg Cody that Greg Cody had not considered, which is a funny thing to consider. Imagine you get stuck in a little bit of traffic as a season ticket holder for the Jets, and you get there 10 minutes late.
You're walking in. So you're not in your car anymore. You're walking from the lot into the stadium.
There are people who did not have devices, were not checking the phones, may have felt like a stadium groan, but they're walking in and they don't know when they sit down, why is Zach Wilson at quarterback?
That's a bad fan. If you're late to the first game, not checking updates, you don't even deserve to know this anyways. Right. Like if you're that out of it and you're just casually walking in,
things do happen.
I mean, you got people are tailgating. No one's that late.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
unless
a night game.
Maybe you're just hammered.
Maybe
you're hammered in the parking lot.
A lot of traffic, Chris. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
People
get to the
plan
game
like it's the first game of the year. You plan around it. You get there like 6 hours early.
I know. I mean, we're talking about fans arriving at games late. We live in Miami. I mean, it happens in New York as well.
It is ridiculous what you're saying, that no fans would arrive late and you're a bad fan.
I
Put it on
think
the poll.
It's more ridiculous that you're thinking that there's just this fan that's like, it's 10 minutes late. I'm just going to show up late.
All right, put it on the poll, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Did a single fan in the NFL show up late for a game this weekend? You're saying it's not possible. You're saying, or let me do it another way. Are you a bad fan if you show up late to a game? That is what you're alleging.
Yes.
Okay.
Ever or just week one?
There's football games are different. You tailgate for a football game. Like if you're walking into the stadium late, it's because you just tailgated too long.
I've showed up in the third quarter of football games.
Well, you're a weird specimen.
Thank you.
Especially a night game. You have all day to get there. Leave the house at 1 p.m.
1?
Yeah, why not?
You're there at 2:30.
You're there at 2:30.
The game starts at 8:15.
That's what I'm saying. So why would you be late is my point. There's no
because
excuse
no
for
one's
being
leaving
late.
at 1. That's why they're late.
Well, you leave at 1, you beat the traffic. It's because nobody's leaving at 1. Get there on the front end, not on the back end. You don't want to get there when the national anthem is playing.
Right.
That's when you're not in your seat by the time the game kicks off.
Before we get to Josh Allen going back to turning the ball over a lot, because I don't think that's a thing that can be fixed. And
Talk about overrated.
I'm going to be wrong every way on Josh Allen by thinking he's terrible when he's great and by thinking he's great when he's terrible.
What's your side this year? Just state it now.
I will. I'll get to that in a second.
Blanket statement, please.
I've never seen turnovers cured. Like if you're reckless with the football, you're somebody who's reckless with the football. But he wasn't that reckless with the football last year. He was last night. He turns it over too much. Aaron Rodgers' greatest gift to the sport is that he changed that position into one where you cannot turn the ball over. You do not throw interceptions. You do not make mistakes. You're not the reason your team loses.
He actually had 14 interceptions last year. It was 2 years ago with Dable where he cut down the turnovers. It was interesting to see because we hold that guy in elite status. He's up there with Mahomes, with Joe Burrow, with all those guys. But, man, he turns it over a lot.
To me, it is a fascinating conversation. How great do you want your greatness measured at quarterback if you're perpetually diluting it in the modern age with, and he's going to be reckless 25 times with the football. There are going to be a bunch of games, including playoff games, where he's fumbling and he's trying to make a play. He's not likely to get hurt the way that, because he's so big, he's a centaur. So he's got the confidence of, I'm strong enough to do this. I'm not Aaron Rodgers. I'm not frail. I can run around here, break tackles, and turn the ball over 3, 4, 5 times a game and undo 400 yards of passing where you fall in love with me because I hit Diggs for 60 yards with an arm no one's ever seen.
He's a fascinating case study because there have been representative samples of him being a turnover machine and also arguably being the second best quarterback in the league. And last season, his struggles could have maybe been attributed to the elbow injury. But now, is this a week one overreaction? Nick Wright actually pointed out something pretty interesting when he tweeted out, since week one of the 2022 season, Josh Allen has played 19 games. He has 20 interceptions and 17 fumbles in those 19 games. That's 37 picks/fumbles in 19 games, averaging almost exactly 2 turnovers a game. This is a real thing with Josh Allen. Being able to question him is back in play. And the comp for Josh Allen has always been Cam Newton, and he's almost following this career arc, where for a season and a half, you could argue with validity that Cam Newton was the best in the game. And something happened where he just fell off a cliff. Now, hopefully it's not that precipitous of a fall. Cam Newton isn't even in the sport anymore. But last night, Josh Allen lost that game against Zach Wilson. Josh Allen lost a very winnable football game.
I need to, so that people understand this. So this is the timeline. I see Josh Allen in a playoff game throw across his body into double coverage. He's trying to throw down the field to his fullback because he plays the game a bit crazy. He's young and he's raw. He's inaccurate and he's reckless. And I say that quarterback is terrible. Then everything that's expected from the Giants is expected because people think that in one season, Daboll cured Josh Allen of something I don't think coaches can teach. Josh Allen had inaccuracy and reckless. And I'm like, maybe you could coach accuracy better. But reckless is reckless.
Right.
Maybe you could coach it out of him. And for a year, it looked like he had.
For 2 years.
But now the Giants are run by the guy who can't actually coach the reckless out of a quarterback. And the Bills are run by a quarterback who's back to being reckless. And I'm just wrong every time. I am promising the audience that at some point we will get to the story of why it is that Greg Cody's wife, or why it is that Greg Cody thinks that his wife is trying to kill him by overdose in a second. And we will get to Ron Magill
OD
in a second. But before we do that, I just need to point out to Stugotz that right now on ESPN as we speak, Shannon Sharp is on television saying, I would call Tom Brady. I would call Tom Brady to be quarterback of the Jets.
I would have called him last night.
Yes, you had this take before Shannon Sharp, but you were then informed, well, you can't have the owner for another team as your quarterback. I suppose he could renounce his ownership.
Yeah, he would have to divest, but saying that aloud is basically the same as saying, I would like to have Arthur Blank as my quarterback.
This guy is addicted to football. This guy is addicted to winning. This guy is addicted to sticking it to Bill Belichick. What better way to do that than doing it with the New York Jets? I mean, why not? He's got so much money. Give up the ownership. Let's go.
What are you even saying? You
I
wanted
need-
to sell ownership in a team
Yes.
to come back to play for the Jets for one season.
Yeah, maybe two.
Just to stick, because you think he hates Bill Belichick that much.
I
I'd
understand.
cut Aaron if he's healthy again.
I understand why he arrives at this position. It's not like any time in the recent past an old quarterback has been injured when he comes and plays for the Jets. That doesn't happen that often. So bring in an older one and hope that he doesn't get hurt as well at 45 years old.
I'm desperate, Dano.
Well, you beat Shannon Sharp to the take. You were first take.
Yes.
Congratulations, Stugotz. Again, though, it was then explained to you can't do that. He's got an ownership stake, at which point your take fell apart.
Do you think he would do that, though?
I really don't want to do that. I'd rather laugh at your pain before you replace the. I understand why
Not
you
answering questions.
I understand why you want to go from Zach Wilson to the greatest quarterback ever, but we're going to stay a while with the Jets have their future in the hands of Zach Wilson.
1-0.
If I can entertain it for just a half second, I'm like, he's not going to go inside the division to a bitter rival, but he was trying to get to the Dolphins.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Ron, did you have any thoughts? Did you have any thoughts when this arrived at your doorstep last night to learn, you're a Dolphin fan, that the best possible thing that could have happened for the Dolphins, the ability to laugh at the Jets and see the Bills lose on the same night. Do you realize that the Dolphins won Monday Night Football?
They did, yes.
Yeah, I got to tell you guys, though, the first thing that entered my mind when I saw Rodgers go down was, oh, my God, Stugotz is on a roof ready to jump off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing I thought of. Honest to God, asked my wife. I went, oh, my God, Stugotz, this is like a curse.
Yep.
That's how everybody.
They are cursed.
That's how
Not
everybody.
like
He just
curse.
smiled so big after saying that.
I know. Look at it. Why are you so happy about the curse, Ron?
Because I was picturing Stugotz's face and thinking to myself,
Picturing
this
him
guy's
sad.
about to go off.
I will tell you, I sat on my couch. Why are you laughing? Not funny images. I mean, ridiculous. You're my friend. I think.
Stugotz, again, I'm not making, that was the first thing that hit my mind. I told Rita, I go, oh my God, Stugotz has got to be, he's thinking he's having a nightmare. But they won the game.
Who laughs at a nightmare? I mean, honestly.
It's kind of like, watching scare tactics or something.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, before we go any further into some video that we have to show you and some questions that the crew has, I was talking last week about something that I wanted to get you on to talk about, and you weren't available because you were doing an assortment of things, including a giraffe surgery.
Yes.
Can you explain to me what goes into a giraffe surgery? Because they can't be easy to move. Can they even be moved? How do you get a giraffe on its side without hurting its legs? Like, how does any of that work?
Well, the biggest challenge in any giraffe procedure is the immobilization, making sure you get the dart in the animal at the right place, right time, and that animal goes down softly. Because those have been some of the tragedies. We have fortunately not experienced it here at Zoo Miami, but I've seen giraffe get darted and then they fall up against a tree and break their neck. That's the big challenge is the immobilization of the giraffe itself. Now, this wasn't a totally full-grown giraffe. This guy was just under a year old, but he's already about 10 feet tall. Weighs a few hundred pounds. He went down very well. We have a team that concentrates on the anesthesia, another team that concentrates on the getting the blood, another team that concentrates on the surgery itself. This giraffe had a tendon literally rip off a piece of its bone in the joint in the back right leg. And that bone had started to rub against the joint to where it was becoming very, very painful for the giraffe. So the surgery just entailed getting the fragment out. The surgery itself wasn't a challenge. Again, it was the immobilization. But I'm happy to say that everything went smooth as silk. As soon as he got the reversal drug after the surgery was done, he stood right up, looked around a little dazed, but he's doing real well.
Forgive the ignorance of this question. Does a surgery of a giraffe take place right where it falls down, or do you then have to move it again?
Depending. If it's a full-size giraffe, it takes place right where it falls down. This giraffe was small enough that we could take a crew of about a dozen people, slide it onto what we call a slider, and we slid the animal into the barn. So we're in covered, a covered protected place because, as you know, it's pretty darn hot out here and you never know when it's going to start pouring.
What's a dazed giraffe look like?
Yeah.
Is he standing, just like wobbling, like, whoa?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Oh.
That's exactly what it looks like. Its legs kind of tremble a little bit, and it kind of splays out a little bit, and it starts to sway a little bit, and then its ears start flopping around like it's trying to get its coordinates together, but that's exactly what it looks like.
All doped up.
Your microphone isn't on.
I can't help that.
I know. But
And usually its tongue is still hanging out a little bit, too.
Okay.
Right.
But nobody heard you say
All doped up.
All doped up. I mean,
yes.
I don't control my microphone.
I know. I'm just telling you that your
Okay.
mic. I'm just informing you that your
All
microphone.
right. Well, it should always be on because you never know when a pearl is going to come out of my
It's
mouth.
true.
Did you have one?
It's true. It's true.
Not yet, Roy.
Ron, would Chris stand a chance with a butter knife against a dope dog?
Oh!
He would stand a chance, yes.
Against a dazed giraffe.
Wow.
Wow.
A
With a
doped-up
butter
giraffe.
knife? With a butter knife and a baby giraffe?
Against this particular giraffe, because he's a juvenile. He's only about 10 feet tall.
Okay, he would stand a chance. The thing that I wanted to talk to you about, though, Ron, and I don't know how honestly you can speak about this, because animal services and a whole lot of systems in South Florida are just sort of falling apart. And there is a horror, and I will allow the graphics team to put up the information on the screen so that people who want to adopt can adopt for free if you just say Le Batard Show when you get there, because there is a horror in Medley where 100 and some odd dogs are living in squalor because of some failures of systems. Can you please explain to the audience what's happening there, what you know is happening in either this situation or more generally with systems that protect animals in South Florida, or don't do it very well because they're being undercut?
Well, they're being undercut. They're being overwhelmed. Both of these facilities that we have here in Miami-Dade County are basically trying to house twice as many animals as they were designed to house. And this, of course, inevitably leads to horrible situations. They're trying their best with what they have. Listen, the bottom line here is there was something that was voted on years ago by the people of Miami-Dade County called the Pets Trust. They need to implement that now. That is up for decision with the county commission, where the Pets Trust would be a private group of people that work together to do spays and neuters and protecting these animals and creating a much more well-coordinated effort to control these populations. Because right now, you're right, it is totally overwhelming. There's no one person to blame. People just need to be more responsible with their pets. Like God rest his soul, Bob Barker used to say, please spay and neuter your pets. It's such an important thing, but we have to have a system in place here. The Pets Trust is something that people of Miami-Dade County voted for years ago. Then the politicians decided they didn't know what they were voting for and didn't implement the Pets Trust. So that is coming back to fruition again. Hopefully it goes through this time.
Ron, last month, a roundup of Mustangs in Nevada happened, and they were using helicopters, and that has led to the death of 31 horses. What's going on there? Is there a better way to do this?
There is a better way to do it. I don't know if it's a more economical way, but, you need to get out there on horseback and round them out that way. I mean, you're inevitably going to have, what they termed as collateral damage and trying to move these animals to get them to another place. And some areas they're claiming, and I don't live there, so I don't know myself, but they're claiming, the Mustangs are overwhelming some areas, they're overgrazing some areas, they're doing some damage. But, this is part of the heritage of the West, and there's very passionate people on both sides dealing with this situation. I don't know enough about it to say, other than, yes, when you take helicopters and you start trying to push animals like Mustangs into certain areas, these animals can break their legs. They can do things that become, inevitably fatal.
Ron, monkeys have been terrifying to me ever since I read that a pet monkey tore the face off the woman who owned it a few years ago. Just north of Orlando recently, there were some wild monkey sightings. Is that like a really dangerous situation? Like, what do you do if you see a wild monkey in your neighborhood?
Leave it alone. Call Fish and Wildlife or call Game and Fish, Florida Game and Fish, FWC, and let them know it's there. But leave it alone. It would be incredibly rare for any wild roaming monkey to come after a person, unless these monkeys have been trained to get food, have associated people with food. They'll come up and challenge you for your food, but they're not going to come and attack you for no reason, unless it's a male and he thinks you're coming in on his territory and you're going to take his females away. The bottom line is you're going to see more and more of these monkey sightings throughout Florida. We already have several troops of monkeys living in the wild in Florida that were introduced years ago, and they're reproducing, and they're sustainable populations here. So, don't be shocked when you hear, oh my God, somebody saw a monkey in their yard here, because it's Florida.
I want to play a couple of videos for Ron, for the audio audience. If you could do a little play-by-play of what's happening here for us, Ron. The first video is of a bear. Tell the people what's happening here.
Okay. Oh God, this guy. They label him in the media. He's so brave. This bear came into camp, so he's trying to walk the bear out of camp like it's a freaking poodle. And the bear takes a swipe at him, gets it pretty good with a swipe real quickly, and he's trying to pretend. I think he had a few beers in him. There he goes. Yeah, there you go. Now that hurt, didn't it, buddy? Yeah, it's not the German Shepherd anymore, is it? How stupid are people? This is a bear, folks. This is a bear. It's obviously a bear that's been habituated to coming into camps to getting food, and this guy's trying to be Mr. Macho. He's lucky he didn't lose a lot more than just a little bit of flesh on his belly.
It did
because
work.
That bear could have taken him out.
Seemed to work, though.
Got rid of the bear, Ron. I mean,
Really, Stugotz?
Yeah.
I mean, he did. He
didn't
did.
look that bad.
It did work.
Right.
It did. I mean, that's not up for
Okay.
debate. He got it out of there like you would get a dog out
All
of
right.
there.
Okay, and it's comments like that are going to lead other people to think, well, it worked for him, it could work for me. So basically, you're giving people ammunition to be stupid and
thank
get
you.
themselves killed. And then what's going to happen, Dan? Then what's going to happen is we're going to get calls like, oh my God, why did this guy? Well, they said on the Dan Le Batard show, he looked pretty cool and brave. And
No,
it worked.
thank you.
So
I didn't
so
say
what-
that.
I mean, he looked pretty
Said it
rad.
worked.
He
Well,
looked he looked pretty rad, man.
Pretty badass
Neosporin
there,
on
yeah.
Be a cool scar.
Well, he did have. He was bleeding. The bear did get him good. Like he was clearly bleeding.
No. The bear didn't get him good. If the bear got him good, he'd be dead. Okay. The bear just kind of grazed him, but reminded him he's a bear. The guy's an idiot. That bear is habituated to people. It's a very fat bear. That bear's been coming into campsites for a long time.
That's rude.
Trying to steal food. And this is what's bad because, there's an old saying, a fed bear is a dead bear, because that bear is eventually going to get somebody and then they're going to euthanize that bear because people are being stupid.
An orangutan. Let's see what that video reveals.
Oh, it's an orangutan. It looks like on some kind of tower.
Oh my
it's throwing
God.
something out of the tower.
What did
The
it
heck-
throw? What did it throw out of the tower? Wait a minute.
I don't know. What is
It's
that?
purported to be a possum.
An orangutan climbed up in a tower, saw a possum up
through a
there.
possum.
What is that? It threw up. The Jets need that as a quarterback.
The Jets should sign him.
Steve Martin also.
I just
Yeah.
said that.
I know. He
man.
stole my thunder.
I'm sorry. I was,
Yeah,
but
that's
you could've just
it's
listened
pretty
to
cool.
me.
Obviously
I
the orangutan felt a little threatened. Its territory was being invaded by a creature that did not belong there, so it immediately dispensed of the creature.
Good arm.
These are intelligent animals.
Cannon.
How often does that happen?
I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen before, but obviously it can.
How often does one animal throw another animal?
I've seen that. I have seen that.
Like when?
I've
Who?
seen- I've seen primates do that with birds. If they can catch them, they'll throw them. Sometimes they wring their neck first, unfortunately, but I've seen them throw them out of the habitat. I've seen one throw a turtle out of a habitat.
Wow.
I've seen an elephant actually pick up a little turtle with his trunk and fling it.
How far?
I don't know, 15 feet.
Ron,
Really?
would you,
That's not that
Ron,
far.
would you be
I
kind
get
of us?
Weak
throw
arm.
farther. Yeah.
Same.
I mean,
Zach
a whale
Wilson
can
is
throw a
better.
seal up in the air.
Ron, for next week, would you be kind enough to just give us, because you mentioned casually, I've seen a giraffe fall down and break its neck. Can you just give us a top 10 list of top 10 things Ron has seen? Just seen. Because you very casually say, I've seen X to every single thing that we put in front of you.
I don't say that.
You've seen it all.
Man, don't say that, okay? But I've seen some animals throw other animals. I have seen that. That's something I've seen.
Ron, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, sir.
Top 10 next week.